Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. In this video we're going to be looking at a bunch of trains from the past couple months that I've seen here in Central Florida, as per usual. Now of note in this video, this is likely going to be my last Central Florida video for quite a while, as in this month of August I am moving to North Florida to pursue college. So the majority of the videos in the coming months will be from that area up there. It's a bit of a bittersweet video for me, but I hope you guys enjoyed just as much as I have filming and editing it. It's June 24th, 2025, and on this oddly cool summer morning, my friend Cooper and I are posted up at 78th Street in Tampa. As many of you all know, 78th Street is the public access point on the north end of CSX's Yeoman Yard and facilities. Many locals originate out of here, as we'll soon see, with the first customer after sunrise being this L779, departing this morning with a solo Jeep 38-3 rebuild, leading a solid train for the Plant City area and its dense commercial presence.
Good morning. We're ready to blast off at YN. We need to work at Market to start. We have 13 loads, no empties, plenty of fuel, plenty of horsepower. PTC initialized, over.
All right, working Market first. Signal indication there at YN, over.
Signal indication, thank you, 779.
You're welcome. CSX J.
About a 20-minute drive from Yeoman is Plant City and a signal on the S line named Market. Presumably named after the large produce clientele in the surrounding neighborhoods, Market is just a mile or two from downtown and the Diamond, where L779's first customer would reside, resulting in a periodic delay in his trip to town this morning. I put the drone up to get a better look at what 779 had to do this morning as he stopped and lined the switch at Quikrete. Receiving a handful of rock loads almost every day and sending out the empties at the same time, this place is fairly busy with a solid number of trucks using the local Salmons and airport roads to access the company. 779 would be pretty quick with his duties this morning as we'd move into downtown and down the Plant City sub. Today Cooper and I hope to catch this L779 on this old sub at a spot I've known for a while, being the approach signal on the subdivision as northbounds continue towards signal territory. This old signal is one of the last remaining lights in Central Florida that date back to the days of the seaboard coastline and would frame our train nicely in the golden morning light as we hear 779 get permission via EC1 down the dark territory sub heading our way.
Idaho 77924, EC1 number 96994. That's 96994, 062425, that's SH4.5. L77924 with that CSX C2001, AR gray on the copy, purple line 1A. 1A, operate main track, both directions. Between the NAS Plant City interlocking, Plant City sub, main track. And the milepost SV827.0, main track.
Just a mile or so from our stance at East Park Road is International Paper at Coronet. Once the site of phosphate operations into the early 2000s, Coronet's mainline Y is coming back into service soon as a rock industry plans to set up shop nearby and will be rail served by this local train presumably. For now, International Paper is the operational customer here, causing a trip down this side for 779 about every other day, like this Tuesday, as 779 prepares to drop off loads and pick up empties from the spur. The operation here wouldn't take too long, but hearing trains in the Bone Valley close by, we'd abandon the 779 and head down there, as I'd need as many shots as I could get for that Bone Valley video that I made just a few weeks ago. Much later in the day, we'd make our way back into Tampa, as on weekday evenings, Tampa tends to get fairly busy, as it would on this day, with L781 finishing off the parade. We choose TN for our photo spot, as more great lighting would await here, as 781 would call a clear at the old interlocking, timetable southbound from the Tampa Terminal sub to the Clearwater sub, and eventually the Brooksville line, with a pair of Dash 8s leading the way once more. 781's big train and early departure would lure me onto 275 and into Lutz, where I'd grab one more shot of the train, rolling around the county line curve on the north side of town, as the crew approaches Lando Lakes and its handful of busy crossings and customers. Just a couple weeks later, I'd have another Tuesday afternoon free, and with another L781 leaving Tampa just after 6:30 p.m. this day, I'd drive back out to Lutz to catch this Brooksville-bound train. I know that when I return to this line in the winter, these weeknight trains will be guaranteed night runs, so even on this wet and muggy June evening, I'd happily set up at the Lutz depot for 781, trundling through at track speed around 8 p.m. After navigating the wide swing into Lando Lakes via US 41 and Dale Mabry Highway, 781 would be rolling good by the time we'd meet again at Morgan Road, where I'd have just a couple moments to set the camera up straight for the run by. Easing my way to Pim, I'd arrive as the train backed onto his loads in the spur and prepared to take them out. A fiery sunset would also await here, displayed above the stop train, which by blocking the crossing made for a very quiet and peaceful few minutes here, while three-step protection was applied for the conductor and air pressure builds back up through the train. Knowing that 781 would only have a couple more moves left before his departure, I'd take the opportunity to move up the line to the outskirts of Drexel, where a fragment of this line's history still abides. Here, just a mile from the old interlocking, with the ACL's old Orange Belt line from Trilby to Tarpon Springs, is an old signal base. Similar to installations in Ybor City, Haines City, Lakeland Junction, and Drexel, this base likely grounded an approach signal or yellow semaphore for trains approaching the diamond from the south. In the very last light of day, I'd be here to find this as 781 approached, now good for the next 20 miles to Spring Hill, where two more customers wait for him. That weekend I'd be out once more, now with my friend Dakota, as we'd both be in search of Bone Valley trains, but as per normal, there would be a solid lull in traffic down there, which we'd take as an opportunity to head north a ways into Lakeland as a frenzy of traffic approached. Arriving with 453's crew van, we'd catch the recrew of M453 at Lakeland Junction, where they'd be lined into the siding as to make the main line clear for any traffic that would be using this Vitus sub before 453's new crew arrived. As of 2 p.m. now, 453 has their new crew and would start inching south towards the A-line, while another train called Signals in the distance ultimately lined ahead of this train at the junction and onto the A-line towards Auburndale.
And 4B321, over.
M45321 over.
Well, we see we just gave us the line. I didn't know if you made a mistake and lined up the main line instead of us in the siding, but I guess we're waiting on somebody to go by us.
Waiting on this cold train that's got to get up here. I'm waiting before these ambulance trains come back, and then you can phone that cold train to turn the corner up here, open down connection over.
Okay, you understand.
First up would be CO40, loaded coal for Orlando Utilities Stanton Energy Plant on the east side of the city, and a very nice catch from above, as thousands of pounds of stored energy passes by underneath us. Since the siding ends just a few yards south of us at Lakeland Connection, 453 would come to a stop shortly after moving from the junction, lined out right behind that coal train in order to get out of the way for two northbounds coming from the west. Coming out of Winston Yard once Amtrak 91 would get out of the way would be M604, a now regular afternoon freight out of Winston for Waycross, and one that's become an S-Line staple this past year, and an evening train up in Georgia closer to Waycross. Today's 604 would be huge, with 3 locomotives all up front and pulling hard wide open, as their crew would guide them up the hill and around the corner at South Lakeland, where the dispatcher has lined them on to head north onto the Vitus sub towards its junction and on the main line, using 5 different switches to make that happen. About an hour and a half would pass, as after a solid dinner with some local barbecue would be consumed, another rush of trains would occur as we'd set up once again at South Lakeland and the old passenger station platform, as the cool of the evening sets in, with high greens on the horizon and an empty shipment of Miami rock climbing the hill from Winston Yard. This is L793, who, even though he'd be empty, would be a very heavy and long train at that, with 2 miles of empties bound for Miami and the Hialeah area mines. Arriving into South Florida later tonight, this will become L789 tomorrow, a local out of CSX's Hialeah yard to those mines, where the train will be loaded and sent out later that night as L792 to Lakeland, which usually arrives back here in the early hours of the morning.
Oh, 793 got approach video. North End car stop for us.
ZF 743 going got up the Union Main Approach. South Lakeland, South Y to the number 2 track, 31
Before L793 could get out of sight, L743, who'd be inching his way to the junction to avoid stopping, would arrive with a short and definitely not as heavy train of rock, but this time loaded for Winston, with a couple more GE wide cabs leading the charge for this southbound train. With just a few dozen hoppers for Lakeland this day, 743 would take that same routing as the M604 from earlier, skipping on to track 2 here at South Lakeland to get out of the way for another northbound. This one in the form of a Tampa intermodal, number IO44 tonight, with a shortcut of Tropicana juice products and a pretty solid sized cut of intermodal commerce from the Bay Area. Just minutes behind the IO44 would be our last train of the parade, Amtrak 92, with a friendly crew running right on time today, coming back into Lakeland for their second station stop of the afternoon, and wrapping up our time in the land of lakes.
Amtrak 92, 348, clear. South Lakeland, clear Lakeland connection, main track, Robert Lakeland Station.
Not too many things of interest would be running in the following weeks after this catch, so I'd make it well into July before another dedicated outing, which would start with a high green at Vitus Junction as L743 barrels south towards us.
4309, we need 3412, clear Vitus, track 1, south direction.
X detector, milepost 836.5, track main 1.
On this very hot Saturday, I'd wake up to a couple messages from a few friends telling me about an interesting train coming south, and with nothing but a laxed evening of watching the Rays game on my schedule this lazy Saturday, I'd hop in the car and head out for Zephyr Hills.
4309, engine 3412, no defects, good as the count, we got clear signal level. Track number 1, do the single main, south direction.
Where I'd end up shortly after that L743 would clear at a curve shot that I've been wanting to shoot at for a while. I'd be set up here, just a stone throw away from the Zephyr Hills skate park and signal, ergo the curve here that stretches from there to here, one that unit train B619 would soon be banking, with a nice lash up of foreign and local engines, showing its Canadian face momentarily, with its steady ditch lights and operating marker lights and all. Catching up to the train after Zephyr Hills traffic and a couple of momentary stops at red lights wouldn't be terribly hard this day, as the road wouldn't be very full and the cars that were using it certainly had places to be, like in my situation, pulling in next at the private crossing at the south end of Knight's Siding, where a soft hill crests in the middle of the siding and where you can see the majority of a long unit train like this stretched out for miles.
5856, got a clear south and night, B619.
This is B619, a loaded unit train of ethanol tank cars for Tampa and the port there. Originating on CN in Chicago, this train will usually take anywhere from 3 to 5 days to make it down here, running via Evansville and Birmingham, Alabama, where it turns south and east towards Manchester, Waycross, and finally Baldwin and the S line to Tampa.
Clear south in Plant City. B619.
Last shot of the day would come at the Garden of Peace, which would be especially peaceful on this breezy afternoon, with 619 appearing minutes after showing up, already slowing down for downtown, and a slow order there as routine track work would still be underway. This would be the end of my short chase and outing today, but I'd be back again with the boys just 1 week later as I drive back from West Palm and would stop in Tampa for a couple trains and some breakfasts at Brocado's Bodega. First move would come on my favorite stretch of track in the Tampa area, the very last few miles of the original Seaboard main line to the port and Clearwater. L755, a Saturday staple, would be coming down the hill, engines light, out of Yeoman this day just after 10 a.m., with orders to head to Drew as per usual and pick up his train of now empty auto racks for Tampa.
CFX, CF dispatcher.
755, Craig.
755, go ahead, Fred.
6557 and round trip to Drew, and then the one switch to the SY 53.7 over.
Alright, I'm ready for you. Be careful, Fred. Just holler at me on the way back.
Will do, and if there was any doubt, same as ever.
Alright, here we go.
Thank you, number one.
You bet. Yeah.
The friendly crew on board would make for a nice sight as 755 lines the power switches for his journey towards TN and onto the Clearwater line.
XL 755. 19-inch, 65-inch, clear TN. 10th terminal, Clearwater.
About an hour passes and the radio would crackle back to life amidst a bit of a side quest as I'd be scoping out some signals and back roads south of town on the AZA line as L700, the Bradenton local, crosses the Alafaya River, about a 3-mile hike from our post. In the distance is the signal at East Tampa, and just beyond that, the approach signal to the Alafaya River and the swing span there. To the south is a small creek that flows well, with water and various forms of local wildlife, and where I'd hide out for L700 as he rolls past at track speed, with freight for Tampa from Palmetto and the Seminole Gulf. Following the L700 back into Tampa, I'd be surprised to hear L755 back on the radio, now giving up his authority to Drew Park and receiving signals to cross the diamond at TN, just around the corner from where we had filmed this morning. It's just before noon now, and running about 5 hours earlier than normal would be L755, returning to Tampa now with that train of empty auto racks and his Jeep locomotive now facing short hood forward, for a great looking shot that rarely has this good noontime lighting. I guess today's 755 was literally just a pickup, as he'd returned just as quickly as he left this morning. A welcome sight for me as I'd pack up and head home for the day. Well, the summer of Dash 8s continues. We have 7886 leading tonight's L781. It's just after 9 p.m. He should be coming around the corner in just a few minutes. Now just a week out from moving to North Florida, I'd set up in Luge one last time as L781 comes north, with another Dash 8 pair leading another solid train for the subdivision, once again seen in some very nice evening light heading north. Thank you to all who have stuck around to watch this one, and to those who have watched so many of these videos that I've made over the past few years of this area. I don't plan on changing anything about this channel anytime soon, but the videos and their locations will obviously change in the coming months as we introduce and explore new areas of our state. But until then, stay safe out there. This is Christian from Multicolor Films. End of transmission.